Trademark Comics, and today, true believers, we got a good one for you. I'm excited. Amazing Spider Man fans, there is a gang war erupting in Hell's Kitchen in New York, and all the crime bosses from Hammerhead to there you see Tombstone, the Nefaria, Maja, everybody. They're all fighting for these territories. Black Mariah, Ringmaster, Crime Master. It's crazy. This is a really, really good crossover, a really, really good event. There's multiple tie-ins across Spider-Woman. Luke Cage is even getting a little mini-series. I am so excited for this. You better be picking up every book in this series to tie in. You better be like me and want to know how everything works and everything ties in. But if, in case you don't, I'm going to show you right now in the most awesome summarizing way. So before we get into the gang war, the eruption of the gang war, we've got to take a look at when the beginning, if you will, the foundation of the gang war, which takes place about 5 months ago, 6 months ago in our real time in The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 31, legacy number 925. This is a special issue because Peter Parker's best friend, Robbie Robinson, who's the son of, Randy Robertson, who's the son of Robbie Robertson, who works for the Daily Bugle, is getting married to none other than Tombstone's daughter, Janice Lincoln, aka Beetle. I know, right? Well, some of you already know that who've been, faithfully reading Amazing Spider-Man. But this is the groundworks for gang war, as we're about to see, because could you imagine, a wedding of, crime lords going perfectly right? Right? Could you imagine crime lords having a peaceful day like normal people? I don't think so. So let's get into the seeds of war and see just how this gang war began. So the story begins in Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. Tombstone, along with his trusted assistant White Rabbit, are going to the inner circle meeting of gang lords, and Tombstone's basically going there to kind of inform them about his daughter's wedding and to kind of inquire, like, hey, I noticed that none of you RSVP'd, to find out what's going on. Now, you may be thinking, what, are these people all friends with each other? Do they invite each other to special moments in their lives? No. Tombstone is smart, okay? He knows that this is a group of gang lords, crime lords, and if all the leaders, if all the people who have the power and pull the strings are present with him, then, well, none of them can really authorize a move or a hit or a strike on him or his daughter and ruin her special day. Because why would they authorize a hit when they're there themselves and they're vulnerable? So Tombstone basically says, you all are going to attend my daughter's wedding ceremony. Hammerhead basically says we have an objection to that, and he gets the owl to tell them, like, hey, yo, we all know that Fisk might be returning soon, and his son got or his son got offed. The Rose didn't die, but something happened with him. I didn't read and find out what that was, but Tombstone is believed to have some kind of involvement in that. Now, Tombstone basically says Wilson Fisk has always treated me with respect, vice versa. The only person who ever made a move for me came from this room. Black Mariah goes on to say the Rose never had a legitimate seat at this table. All the official members here never made a move on you. Tombstone basically then goes on to say that's fine. I would just feel really, really safe and comfortable if you all were there. And he goes, here's what's going to happen. You all are going to attend my daughter's wedding ceremony. Hammerhead goes on to talk about Tombstone's recent business moves and how they may be soft and appear weak. Tombstone replies and lets Hammerhead know that, well, if any of you are absent from my daughter's wedding, I'm going to take that as I'm going to be very suspicious. And I tend to be less soft when I'm suspicious. So you all will be there. My daughter's going to have a nice, normal, happy wedding, period. And basically, they all comply, they all concede to Tombstone's request that they're all going to be there. And there is still talk of Wilson Fisk, the kingpin of crime, returning. And Hammerhead basically says, look, it doesn't really matter what Crime Master said he saw or what the owl thinks. It matters what Fisk believes. All right, and if Fisk believes that Tombstone had anything to do with his son getting got, whatever that means, then that might be something we want to get ahead of. Now, get ahead of in mafia crime terms, I don't know what that means. Maybe it means like, hey, if we can take care of Tombstone for Kingpin, maybe that'll give us some kind of brownie points with him, since Kingpin, I'm imagining, has the most pull or power or influence in the crime underworld. I don't know. Then you see Madame Mask, and she's saying, well, a move like that would require a unanimous vote. And my vote still remains the same, which I'm assuming is that she would vote nay against that. And then Hammerhead goes on to say, well, you know what? I'll let you tell the Kingpin that when he asks. See you at the wedding. Day at Marcus Garvey Park. Peter Parker walking Aunt May down the aisle to her seat, and Parker's basically on usher or aisle duty, basically. All the guests are coming in, and your friendly neighborhood usher is guiding people to their seats. Now, to Parker's surprise, the villains start showing up. Hammerhead, namely, first of all, with a nice date, who he says has no name. Hammerhead goes on to basically give Parker some money as a tip to pay for that cheap tux, throwing a little bit of shade there. Spider-Man is having a brain fuck right now. He's like, there's no way that Tombstone invited his co-workers, is there? To the groom's quarters, where Randy's having trouble tying his bow tie, probably because he jacked off so much he lost feeling in his hand. His father, Robbie, steps in the tent to give him a hand, no pun intended, and he asks his son, hey, are you alright? Get rid of those pre-wedding jitters. This bitch Janice, she's not going to be a criminal thug anymore, is she? Ha, Dad, I assure you she's not. Already got her reading scriptures. Then we cut to Peter Parker continuing his boring job of assisting people to their seats. Where he meets one of Janice's college colleagues, and then we hear all rise, and here comes the bride. Tombstone escorting his daughter down the aisle, and Randy is just in awe, as everyone pretty much is. And Tombstone, then you see here the very symbolic. He's handing his daughter literally over to the hand of Randy, as you see, and he throws a little joke in there like, hey, she's your problem now. But shortly after this, what would a wedding be without a little bit of spider sense, huh? And crash! This Rastafarian who let the dogs out beanie man ass dude on a motorcycle runs out and crashes through, just shocking everyone at the wedding. Everyone's in a panic, everyone's frantic, but not Tombstone. Tombstone's like, yo, I'm ready. Now, Peter Parker does the opposite of his job before, helping people to their seats. Now he's trying to get everybody the fuck out of their seats so they can get out of there, because we don't know what's going on. But Tombstone, this guy's smiling, right? Tombstone's crazy. It's like he wanted this shit to happen. Okay, so he goes and he meets this wedding crasher, okay, unlike the movie, and he's like, yo, what's going on here, man? And the guy looks like he's targeting Tombstone, going right for him. And he pulls out his shotty and he's blam, 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 puts a couple pellets in Tombstone. Tombstone smiling like, hey, man, anybody tell you I'm bulletproof? And he looks down and the Tombstone sees something he hasn't seen in a long time. His own blood. Nobody makes him bleed his own blood, LaFleur. And Tombstone falls to the ground holding his wounds like, ah, you got me. You got me. Ah. And then he even asked the guy what's his name. And the guy basically says that Tombstone had leverage on every crime boss in the city, but he couldn't see everything. And he places that shotgun right up to the temple. Now Tombstone knows these bullets can damage me. And right before he pulls the trigger, kapow! Spider-Man, Spider-Man, radioactive Spider-Man. Spider-Man kicks the shit out of this guy, out of this who let the dogs out, right in the temple, knocking him off his balance. And now the fight is going to begin between Spider-Man and this wedding crasher. We see Madame Mask, Hammerhead, and his hoe trying to get out of this place. And Madame Mask questions Hammerhead and says, was this your move? Was this your move? And he's like, no, this wasn't my move. I didn't do anything. This wasn't my move. This was. And he pulls out a device, clicks the button, and kaboom! Madame Mask is toast, done, da, swimming with the fishes. Or in this case, she's just ashes. Now look at the reaction of Hammerhead's date. She's not startled. She's not screaming. She says, Wow. And she has this kind of almost smiling smirk on her face. Hammerhead's like, "See? I told you I'd show you some excitement today." Then we go back to the fight between Spider-Man and this Dreadhead, and it's a good one. Blam, 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 blam. He's blasting that Spider-Man. Pew, pew, ricochet, ricochet. Spider-Man's ducking and dodging. Thwip, thwip, and thwipping and fopping and doing all the aerobatic, aristocratic moves. Spider sense. Vroom. This motorcycle just runs in. Spider-Man's like autonomous, autonomous, like it's a transformer bike, and the guy gets on it and he hightails out of there. Spider-Man then shoots two thwippy web thwippies at a tree, lunging himself real sky high in the air to get a better bird's eye view of his bad guy, and then he doesn't see him. The motorcycle muffler goes silent. Spider-Man's like, damn, once he lands, this guy's either really good or he had some help. See a dramatic closing scene with Robbie and Randy getting into the limo and his father asking, "Well, what about Janice, son?" And Randy looks over to Janice in her wedding dress on her side. He says, "Janice has other more important things to deal with, Dad. Let's go. I just want to play some PlayStation at home." So Janice looks at him, and this may be the last time they speak for a while. Then we close with Peter Parker and his Aunt May, and Peter Parker just thinking about the day, like, man, where did he find the time to change so fast? I don't know. Then we move into 5 months later, Amazing Spider-Man issue number 36. This is where we see the reason for the gang war, and there's a little bit of a gang war interlude tie-in this book and the next two books after this. This is very pivotal. Very, very pivotal. Here you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the reason for the gang war. Hammerhead sweating. No, it is Silvermane and Hammerhead. That's right. The reconstructed Silvermane is praising Hammerhead, giving him positive reinforcement, applauding him for his loyalty to the Magia, because this is the reason, folks, true believers, for the gang war. Silvermane, along with an accomplice, wanted to have the Magia return to its glory days, wanted to have all crime in New York City bow to the Magia. And Silvermane is telling Hammerhead that one day, very soon, you will be able to stand tall and be below me, because I will be placed on this amazing body. No pun to the Amazing Spider-Man, but this is it, folks. It's very, very simple. It's always that simple. It's always about power and control. You mix a little bit of greed in with that, and this is what you get. So now we know Hammerhead's biggest task that he had to do to prove his loyalty to the Magia was eliminate Madame Mask. That's right. Now, for those of you true Spider-Man fans, you know, well, Madame Mask is tied, right, to the Magia. Why would the Magia want one of their own to be eliminated? Well, maybe it's because, as we found out earlier, that she wouldn't even vote to have Tombstone eliminated if he in fact did have something to do with the downfall of his son, the Rose, which we know that he did. So let's get into even more and find out what's going on now in the next issue, Spider-Man 37. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 37 is very, very interesting. Here's another gang war interlude piece in the middle of the story arc that was going on in this book. But this one's very interesting because we see now Hammerhead apparently at the table with the rest of the, I guess, old leaders of the Magia who once held power in New York City. And they're all kind of griping and complaining to Hammerhead. And Hammerhead goes on to reinform them like, hey guys, listen, you all are big and bad sitting here at this table, but I actually sit at a table with real psychos, killers, supernatural beings, superhuman psycho villains, and even friggin' vampires. So he's like, look, give me a friggin' break, alright? Then they go on to discuss their plans, and they say, well, you know what, no one's going to really believe that you had the hit on Madame Mask. Why would Nefaria order a hit on his own daughter, right? And basically, then Count Nefaria, he enters and says exactly, because no one would even suspect that it was I who ordered the very hit on my own daughter. It's like, whoa, that would take a really cruel, sick individual to do that. But basically, everyone, their plan was that Hammerhead was going to frame a number of the crime generals and pit them against each other. And he was also going to provide the solution and take care of them. So he was going to provide the problem and the solution. And this was a way for people to garner trust for the Maja once again. And this was their plan, folks. So yeah, that's really, really fucked up. That Count Nefaria, it seems like even this is kind of reminiscent in like crime and mafia like movies we see, where there's really no loyalty amongst their ranks and these people, even amongst their own flesh and blood family. It's like the money and the business just take precedence over everything else. And we see it here with Count Nefaria and his own daughter. Now, I don't know the history or the relationship between Count Nefaria and Madame Mask. Maybe some of you do, could say so in the comments below. But yeah, he ordered the hit on his own daughter. You move right into Amazing Spider-Man issue number 38, and we see things heating up to this gang war, and we see Luke Cage speaking with Randy Robertson in his office. Now, Randy Robertson, the way he's trying to combat this, he was really shook by the events that happened at his wedding, as would any normal man. But he doesn't have any superpowers. He was never bitten by any radioactive bugs. So he has to do things that a normal man within a civilization in the United States can do, right? He can lobby, he can protest, he can try to use the legal system to fight, because Fisk's law plays a big role in all this, which is basically uh, making it illegal for superheroes or vigilantes to exist, to get involved, right? The police have to basically police, or the SWAT or the FBI. It has to be legal, legitimate law enforcement. No vigilante force can exist, thanks to Wilson Fisk's. When he was mayor, he created, I believe it was the anti-vigilante task force, or the anti-vigilante law, and all laws are overturned basically by a majority vote. So the problem is, what Robbie's trying what I'm sorry what Randy's trying to do is sway voters to do this, right? And Mayor Cage, you got to understand, him being a superhero himself, he must be chomping at the bits. So that's what Randy's basically doing on his end, is trying to stir up commotion and get people to vote for the anti-vigilante law to be overturned. Problem is, nobody really sees it as a problem. Like, okay, superheroes can't do what they do before. I can still go to Whole Foods every day. Like, people are like, nah, it's not that big of a deal. Now, what Randy makes the mistake of is catching the eye of Hammerhead, as we see Hammerhead's watching him on TV, along with that girlfriend that he had from his wedding, right? So she must have had some good gushy, because Hammerhead decided to keep her around, or he doesn't really have any game, and that's all he could get. But anyway, he's basically saying, you know what, this kid's causing a lot of commotion, causing a lot of problems, and he's going to mess up a lot of good things. Hammerhead gets a phone call from one of his goons, and informing him that they have taken care of some of Lady Yulan's men, or vampire creatures. And basically, Hammerhead, he now starts to frame other crime lords for making hits and moves on each other. In this particular incident, he had his goons go over to Lady Yulan, some of their men, and basically, I don't know, burn them. And the guy on the phone's like, look, they're either real vampires, or they really, really hate that holy water. And they blamed Mr. Negative for this incident specifically. They took some of the masks from the inner demons, Mr. Negative's inner demons, and just left them there. Now, that seems like very sloppy. When Lady Yulan found out, and she sees like inner demon masks laying on the ground, like that seems really sloppy. Like, or maybe they were just really trying to boast, like, hey, like we did this. But in all, it doesn't really even matter. Uh, she knows, and she thinks that Mr. Negative made a hit on her now. See her now disclosing this information to Hammerhead, basically saying this isn't a discussion. I'm going to get him back. And he says, look, let me take care of Mr. Negative. I got the resources. She then says, you know what? I don't really know if I like depending on you. Hammerhead then goes to Mr. fucking Negative and he's like, yo, look, I'm gonna take care of all this. He's like, how do I know you can do this? Hammerhead then is like, listen, because I got the muscle, I've got the resources, and I've got Count freaking Nefaria and Silvermane backing me. In this one, he's speaking to, I don't know who this guy is, but this guy's pissed off because he thinks somebody kicked him out of Red Hook, of the Red Hook district, I'm assuming. And he says that, you tell Mariah, or, Mariah's lucky, Black Mariah's lucky that, you're protecting her, because if you weren't, right, I would burn this whole town down to find out from her, who kicked him out of Red Hook. And then Hammerhead's talking to Mariah and he's like, look, I'm going to keep my seat and do what I do here, but we're going to make you whole. The plan's to give you all of Harlem, right? Because we haven't even decided to divvy up Tombstone's territories yet. And that's when Mariah informs Hammerhead, like, look, that's just the thing, Hammerhead. If Tombstone's territory is up for grabs, nobody told his daughter Janice. Right to the Harlem Hospital Center, where we see Tombstone clinging on for dear life, no pun intended, with his name being Tombstone and all, and his daughter Janice draped in her beetle outfit minus the helmet, informing her comatose father that she had to make a small bit of a hit on some of Mariah's men because she saw them trying to take 128th. Nobody tries to take 128 from Tombstone. Nah, talk about motherfucker. And then right as she's saying that, then her ex fiance, Robbie, or I'm sorry, Randy Robertson, I get him and his dad mixed up. Randy enters the room to check on Tombstone, I guess, and he's like, is that what you think he wants to hear? And then now she starts throwing shade at him, like, oh, shouldn't you be out there trying to get your super friends back on the job? And he's like, look, that's, I'm doing what I can do, but I don't think your dad would want you, to be getting involved with what you are. Then we see the two Maja masterminds, Silvermane and Count Nefaria, standing over. I really don't know what the hell they're standing over. And basically, they're having a little discussion amongst themselves, talking about Hammerhead and his recent actions and his loyalties. And Nefaria says, yeah, he's been a good pawn. And, we're using him basically to find out some things. And then Silvermane goes on to say, right, we're going to use him to find out who's, you know, neck we need to put our hands on. And right as he says that, it was almost like a command, but some kind of short circuit apparently happened in his body, and he grabs Nefaria by the neck. Okay, kind of like Peeta did Katniss in the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. He just grabbed the shit out of her neck and choked her so hard it left a black mark. And Nefaria's like, ah, let go. Ah. And he's like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And he slams Nefaria to the ground. Now, I don't know if he kills him or just knocks him out or what. But then we think it's over, and no, Silvermane goes after his own self. So someone's like hacked Silvermane, and now he's choking himself, and he rips his own head off. Then we see the boots of apparently whoever did this in front of the head of Silvermane, and this shadowy figure, whoever this is, Silvermane knows. He says, "You." So Silvermane knows who this person is, and they say, I think it sounds fun. This gang war sounds fun. Keep that in mind. Whoever this figure is, they wanted Nefaria and Silvermane out of the picture, and now they're kind of taking control like a puppet master and saying this gang war sounds fun after all, which leads us into the Amazing Spider-Man Gang War First Strike. And finally, we have arrived at the Amazing Spider-Man Gang War First Strike. That's right, if you've stayed this far, You must really like the sound of my voice. No, we have arrived at the Amazing Spider-Man Gang War First Strike. This is a one-shot. This is the primer, if you will, the catalyst, the formal first uh, jump off for the Spider-Man Mega Event Gang War. Okay, as you see this nice cover art here, Spider-Man kind of facing a number of the New York crime lords, some of their henchmen, not all of them. And then this is very cool. On the next page, we get a very nice look here at New York's crime underworld territories and their divisions and who owns them and who runs them. So you guys see here, Diamondback. There's even a few that are contested, right? The Maja, like as I said, right? The Maja definitely, just based off of the looks of it, seems to have the number one territory, the largest territory. Then we've got the Hobgoblin, right? Hobgoblin, who I would have never thought, right, was involved in this as well. He's got definitely the second largest territory. Okay, and then it's between. Then we see Diamondback, we see Tombstone. Tombstone's got a large one. Diamondback does as well, and so this is very cool to see all of this here and all the players on this chessboard. But let's jump right into Gang War First Strike. Back at Arthur Avenue in the Bronx at the meeting place of the New York crime lords of the New York underworld. And again, we see this gentleman. I believe he might be Big Ben. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but he is complaining. He again is slamming his fists on the table again, inquiring, demanding that he know who the fuck kicked him out of the Red Hook district. And then they go around the table, those that are there, saying, "It wasn't me, don't look at me." Crime Master says, "Yeah, you might want to look a little bit north to Harlem." Then Lady Yulan steps in and is like, "Well, I don't got to look that far. My enemy's right across the table," referring to Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative's like, "Yo, listen, bitch, I already done told you, okay? I did not, wait a minute. What is Shang-Chi?" Hold on, this is kind of funny, right? Lady Yulan, Shang-Chi, and Mr. Negative are the Asians of the group, and they're all sitting next to each other. But anyway, Mr. Negative, he's interrupted. He realizes Shang-Chi sitting there, and Shang-Chi's like, "I am here representing the Five Weapon Society, and we want a part of this New York titty, and we are only going to ask nicely once." And so basically, then we see Diamondback jumping in. He's like, "Listen here, man. Don't get so excited that you wet the bed, all right? Because let me tell you what's about to go down." He's basically saying, Diamondback go now. Now, what's interesting? Diamondback is a big player too, because I didn't know, but Diamondback was going to be the kingpin of New York. I'm assuming when Fisk stepped down as kingpin, or I guess right when Fisk ran for mayor during his tenure as the mayor. I would imagine, I don't know if his son took over as kingpin, but Diamondback was a runner up. And he almost was the kingpin. But Diamondback is basically telling his plans, because we learn in Spider Woman #1, that gang war tie-in, Diamondback now has an allegiance with Hydra. And you'll see Hammerhead allude to that, saying that, "Oh, you didn't think that your little partnership would fly by my without me knowing, huh?" And Diamondback is basically telling the rest of the group that he wants to move into Madame Mask's territory, the financial district. And this is what Hydra had talked about with him, that with their resources, they think he can do that and become even more powerful and influential than he already is and was before. Hammerhead goes on to accuse Diamondback, saying, how much of a coincidence is this, huh? Madame Mask dies, and now you're ready to expand into her territory, implying that Diamondback had something to do with Madame Mask's death. Very clever again. Hammerhead has to keep the pressure off of him, deflecting it to other people. So Diamondback rebuttals and says, "Count Nefaria knows I would never do anything like that. I play fair, and as a showing of my fairness, I'm giving up my claim to Tombstone's territory." Black Mariah jumps in and says that she wants Tombstone's territory, and she loves Harlem. She's a Harlem native, and she should have it because Tombstone's gone now. That's when Hammerhead jumps in and corrects her and says, "Well, Tombstone's quite actually alive, Mariah. He's hooked up to some cables right now in the hospital in the Harlem Hospital Center, and right when he begins to talk, that's when boom, White Rabbit interrupts the meeting, jumps in. Hammerhead's like, "Bitch, what the fuck you doing here? You don't got no business here." And she's like, kind of like in Harley Quinn kind of fashion. White Rabbit's kind of like, "Yo, Mr. J," but in this case, it'd be Mr. T for Tombstone. "Here we are. We're late." And they're like, "Who is we? Who's late?" And then Hammerhead's like, "Shouldn't you be looking after his daughter, Janice?" And boom, Janice comes in and says, "She is." Hammerhead then asks Janice, "What are you doing here? Your father, he's hurt right now, and his seat is empty at the table here." And Janice says, "Oh, yeah, I noticed." Plops herself right down in his seat. Black Mariah informs her, "Look here, little girl, that ain't how it works here. Everybody here has earned their spot at the table." That sparks an idea in Hammerhead's head. Hammerhead then goes on to ask her, "Hey, I never thanked you for inviting me to your wedding and all. It's how I met this broad right here. Me and her have been having a real nice time. You know. By the way, how's that fiance of yours? I see he's been on the TV on a tune talking about the superheroes and changing the acts. You still talk to him and whatnot?" That's when Janice cuts him off and he's like, "I'm not here to talk about my personal life, Hammer flat ass head." And Hammerhead's like, "Oh, but that's where you get it wrong, little pretty girl. You do have to talk about your personal life in this place because that's what we all do. We all got skin in the game here." So he's becoming a real problem, you see, because he wants the superheroes to come back. And that's going to mess up stuff. That's bad for business. So you want to prove yourself worthy? You want to earn a seat at the table? Smack! Lays down a photo of Randy Robertson and says, "You got to kill Randy Robertson." It's like you could hear a pin drop in there as everybody stares down at Janice. And Janice, playing her best poker face, she's like, "Pfft, that's it? You want me to kill him? My ex fiance, the guy I was about to commit the rest of my life to? Pfft, no problem." And Hammerhead initially takes her silence as a no. So he gloats and he's like, "That's what I thought, Toots. Don't let the door smack you on the ass, bitch, when you leave." And Janice is like, "You know what? Let's go, White Rabbit. Give me 24 hours. I got 24 hours and it'll be done." We go to the Gracie Mansion and things are going to heat up as the literal first strike is about to happen. Mayor Luke Cage is on the phone with none other than Randy Robertson as he's preparing to speak to a group of protesters against the Anti-Vigilante Act law, and he's asking Mayor Luke Cage, "Hey, did you get any news, any new information, something new I can give to the people?" And Luke's like, "Man, I wish I could, but I got nothing." And he hears someone in the background. Luke Cage is like, "Yo, how many people are out there?" And he's like, and Randy's like, "I think all of them." He's like, "God damn, that's amazing, man. That's really cool that you got those people to come and support you." Then they cut to the crowd. We see Hammerhead rolling in style with again this lady. Like, man, she must have some good coochie because, man, Hammerhead paid for her and he just keeps her around now. But now, by now, she's really comfortable. She's asking him questions about his dealings and whatnot. And she's like, "Wow, like, look at all these people." And he's like, they're just dumb. They're just fighting for the wrong cause and whatnot. And, these are people, especially, Randy Robertson. He forgets that being brave has a big cost. So she's talking to him. And she's basically saying right now at this moment, as Randy's making his way down the stairs, they have sent Janice, who is going to be the Beetle, to attack him. Okay, and so we see Janice, and she meets with Randy in the stairwell, and she charges at him, and she grabs him by the throat, and I mean she slams him in the wall. That suit must enhance her strength, and you see just blood coming down his nose and everything. And she's like, "What, are you scared?" And he's like, "Oh, I ran all out of fear at the wedding, having to help my parents dodge bullets." And she charges at him again. And she's like, "Oh, you little son of a bitch." Oh, poor Randy Robertson. He was going to marry a thug. He was going to marry a murderer, just like my father. Is that what you think I am? And then we cut back to Hammerhead and his girlfriend, or this female friend that he has. She's like, "That's real messed up, getting that girl, to kill her boyfriend." And he's like, "Yeah, that is. It would take a cold, cold, cold heart to do that, but that ain't Janice, and I know it's not her." So the lady asks, "So you're not going to take care of Randy then?" He's like, "Haha, I never said that." So he sends these goons instead to take care of Robbie with handguns, or take care of Randy. Now, mind you, I don't know if Hammerhead knew that she was going to be there and he was trying to get the both of them at the same time. But here's the thing, right? So Randy, like any man who loves a woman, right? He's going to throw himself in front of her. Now, what's kind of funny but not is they were there to get him in the first place, okay? And he jumps in front of her like, dude, you didn't have to move. You like they were aiming for you, okay? But it makes it look cool, like, okay, they shot and he like jumped in front of her when it was like, I'm sure that suit that she has is probably bulletproof to a degree. But yeah, they you could have stood still, man. It wouldn't have made that much of a difference. You still got shot. So blah 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 blah. They just empty the clip on him and he gets shot up. Cut back to the Gracie Mansion. Mayor Cage just got the bad news about Randy getting shot. He's like, man, he's distraught. Spider-Man shows up. He's like, hey, man, we need to talk. You know what? I want to help out with everything that's going on. And Luke Cage is like, Spider-Man, man, listen, we'll do everything that we can. And he's like, listen, man, I just want to help out with what's going on. I feel bad. And Luke Cage is like, help out. He's like, oh, nobody told you, huh? Spider-Man's like, nobody told me. What? Nobody told you that your friend Tombstone got shot. No. Then we cut to the hospital, and basically, Robbie Robinson, Randy's father, is there next to Tombstone's bedside. His nurse runs in. Oh my God, Mr. Robinson, whew, I thought you got shot. He's like, hold on, wait a minute, bitch, what you mean? She's like, the admittance papers, it said Robertson, but it said a different Robertson. He's like, what did it say? It said, someone named Randy. He's like, bitch, Randy, that's my son. So he runs out in the hallway and he sees his son Randy on a gurney, who's taped up with blood coming out. And Janice is there and she's like in her Beetle outfit still. She's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I tried to help. He's like, help? Bitch, you didn't help nothing. You think you're going to put that costume on and help my son? Get away from my son, you heathen. You heifer and ass heathen. How could you let him get shot? How could you do this? Get away from him and never come back, you dirty ass, ugly ass beetle bug hoe. She's crying as she runs away. Now, this is the scene, ladies and gentlemen. This is the pivotal, like, plot twist turning point. We're at Hammerhead's apartment. And my God, look at the way they illustrated this lady. I don't know who she is, but she sure is getting a lot of screen time. Look at her curves. My goodness. Now, look at, this is very, very telling. She's holding Madame Mask's mask, right? She's just a curious girl, you know. She's just messing around. Oh, you kept her mask? Interesting. That's pretty cool. Now, again, she starts crossing the line a little bit, questioning Hammerhead about his dealings. He doesn't like that. He wants to put her in her place. He's like, listen here. You know something? Are you scared? Are you awake, eh? And then she's like, I don't know. And then he just like throws her on her ass on the floor. He's like, good. And that's why, because I'm the man and I'm on top and I know just how to be the exact right of man. I got a room full of psycho killers in there waiting on me to do what I got to do to keep things in order. Little do those jackasses know that I'm the one that's causing them to want to hate each other in the first place. Now, Hammerhead's sitting in the recliner while he's doing this. He made himself a little drink. The lady goes and gets a pipe, and he's like, what the hell are you doing back there? Whack! I mean, you would have thought she was Barry Bonds the way she took that lead pipe apparently and went to town on Hammerhead's head. Now, mind you, Hammerhead's got like adamantium in his head, and she's just blasting him, bludgeoning him, drawing blood. It's like a gory, squishy, gloshy, glishy. Like, she hit him so hard she left that like a lead, like a concave indentation in the top of his head, right? Like, just went in. And if you look at her now, she's just gets covered in his blood on her arms, her face, her forearm. Like, she's smacking him, laying into him. Like, I don't know if she's strong or just that pipe, that weapon she has is really, really strong. So now Beetle shows up to the apartment in the window, and Beetle's like, "Whoa, like who are you? Like what's going on? Like what'd you do?" And this lady is like, "I didn't do anything you weren't here on your way here to do, sweetheart." And that's when Janice says, "Wait a minute, I recognize you from my wedding. You were Hammerhead's date." And the lady says, "Well, yes and no. That was the poor soul that I hired to be me." And then that's when Janice says, "Wait, you're Madame Mask?" Holy shit. That's right. That's why this woman got so much screen time, so much page time, because this was Madame Mask. Holy shit. Madame Mask was up here playing chess while Hammerhead was playing checkers. She or now I don't know as of right now if she knew Hammerhead was going to make a hit on her or an attempt. That I don't know, but we can definitely speculate that because she is the daughter of Count Nefaria. Count Nefaria has connections with the Maja, so maybe somehow she had some intel or whatever that her father was going to try to take her out, and use Tombstone or use Hammerhead, I'm sorry, to do it, and use Tombstone's daughter's wedding for the place where to do it. But I don't know. But well played, Madam Mask. Well fucking played. You see Madam Mask now, back in her mask, standing in her glory, covered in the blood of Hammerhead, basking in the moment as she revealed to Janice that she got Hammerhead to reveal all his secrets to her regarding this gang war, and he basically set everyone up, and she was preparing to knock them all down. And Janice says that she doesn't really care. All that she cares is that Hammerhead had her ex fiance, Randy Robertson, shot. And Madame Mask reveals to her, "Oh, little darling, little naive darling, you're going to care very, very much because once word spreads that Hammerhead is gone, you see all those treaties and alliances that he had are going to now become very frail. And people are going to become fearful and greedy and start to make moves based on that fear and based on the opportunity. Nobody wants to be a sitting duck and get hit." She said it's going to be an absolute land grab. Janice says, Do you want this war?" And she says, "Sweetie, they want war because now the time is ripe." And she said, "You're too young to remember the last land grab that we had, similar to like a draft pick, if you will, where the entire playing field gets shaken up. But this is what it seems to happen. This seems to be the natural order of things in New York's crime underworld. That every now and then some kind of event happens and takes place where there's some kind of shifting and taking of territories and whatnot. And this gang war seems to be just that. Tombstone being in the hospital right now, there being no kingpin, there now being an anti vigilante law in New York. The time is right for the crime lords of the New York City underworld to do what they do best, go to war, and may the spoils of war go to the victors. And Madame Mask is playing things very smartly, very intelligently, because she's basically going to let all of her enemies slaughter each other, and then while she'll be there to pick up the pieces and claim all the territories that are left over. And so this is very, very interesting, a very good play. We see here a layout of, Mr. Negative and the inner demons getting ready to go to war with Lady Yulan, because now we see this, and the Ringmaster. Everyone's taking their positions because they see, hey, Hammerhead is gone. He made these deals with me, and he's gone now, so these deals are basically null and void. Here we see Spider-Man going to the hospital after getting the news of Randy being shot to visit him, and he sees his father Robbie there. And Spider-Man didn't really expect to see a pep talk there, but he sees him and he offers his condolences, and Robbie's basically like, "No, like you shouldn't be here. You should be out there fighting, using the power that you have, the great power that you have, and being responsible with that." And he's saying his son got shot and he didn't really even know if the superheroes did more harm than good. Spider-Man said, I don't even know if we do either. And Robbie says, "No, you don't get to do that. My son was shot for standing up for what he believed in." And he basically said, "That's going to be a story. I know more than anyone that's going to be a story, and don't let that story be in vain. Don't let him die for nothing." And Peter Parker says, understood. He gets that pep talk that he needed, and then boom! Their hallmark lifetime moment gets interrupted by a loud explosion outside of New York City. You see flame and smokes and hear gunfire and violence erupting in the streets. It is a gang war. It has officially started, ladies and gentlemen. We see Lady Yulan and the vampires of the night and Mr. Negative and the inner demons clashing, preparing to go to war. Then you see this guy in what appears to be an army like of hulked up supermen, if you will. I mean, each panel they've got all these members just ready in the streets to go to war over these territories, and this actually is very very cool. It's very interesting to see. And then we see the Beetle back with Madame Mask at Hammerhead's apartment, and she's talking, and she's like, "Well, I'm gonna get out there, and I'll see you soon." And Madame Mask is like, "Yeah, get out there, sweetie." And she's like, "Yeah, I will. I'll be seeing you soon." And then we see Madame Mask get on her phone, and she gives the go to an individual named Shotgun. Now, those of you remember the Dreadhead I was referring to that crashed the wedding in the first place, he had two shotguns. So I'm making the call right now, and I'm thinking that that was Shotgun. And if that's the case, if Madame Mask just gave him an order, then that must mean that she was the one that not only paid someone to impersonate her, she also paid and had Shotgun crash the wedding in an attempt to take out Hammerhead. Or no, I'm sorry, and attempt to take out Tombstone. Now remember, at the original meeting, it was Hammerhead who said, "Well, if Tombstone does have something to do with, the Rose getting got, maybe we ought to get ahead of that. Maybe Madame Mask, she knows Kingpin is coming back, Fisk is coming back, and maybe she wants to position herself in order to be in his good graces. I don't know. I don't know why. This is all just speculation." Finally, we go back to Gracie Mansion and we see Mayor Luke Cage telling some of his what appear to be his guards or Secret Service men, trying to rally up as many police officers as they can, get everyone that they can. And that's when he hears a crash from a web through the glass, and it's Spider-Man. He goes, "We need to talk." And Mayor Luke Cage says, "We'll talk." Spider-Man says, "There's a lot of people out there suffering. There's a war going on out there, an all-out war, and the citizens of New York are at risk." And he's like, "I'm about to do a lot of vigilanting and a lot of heroing, and I don't want any distractions." And Mayor Luke Cage says, "You got it. I'll keep the police out of your way." And Spider-Man, right before descending out of the window, says, "Not my way, our way, because I need a team." And there you have it, folks. Thank you for sticking along. Those of you that did, I know none of you probably did, just me, myself, and I. But wow, that is the start of Spider Man Gang War. And let me tell you, folks, it was amazing. Next, we got Spider Man issue number 39, getting right down to the streets. So, this has been Trademark Comics, and stay tuned for more. And until next time, I am out.